Welcome back to another episode of the Inkwell podcast. Today, I am joined by a really interesting person I've yet to meet on a social level, but he is here. He's pretty highly regarded, won some awards. He's a writer, and I'm happy to introduce Braxton Cosby. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
And my pleasure, and thanks for being here. Like I mentioned in the intro, I've not met you, never even really heard of you until it was reached out to like, hey, Braxton, come on, do a podcast. And I like giving a platform for creatives to just kind of tell their story and how they got into what they're doing, whether it be comics, writing, art, whatever. So we'll just dive right in. What was really the first thing that inspired you to pursue kind of writing? Whether it be like comics or novels, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I've got like three college degrees, and one of the main things that I noticed about my time in school was that I didn't like multiple choice tests. I called them multiple guess, and I never felt like I really was able to express what I knew, whatever the subject matter was.
Mhm.
The only classes really that I felt really competent in were the ones that were like essay format, essay based. And so for some reason in all those classes, I got A's because I could actually go in and tell you everything I knew, express myself. And I just felt really good about being able to do that. So ironically enough, when I graduated from undergrad and started pursuing I guess it was, no, I was pursuing my master's degree at the time in physical therapy. I just got this thing one day in church. The pastor was preaching, and he said that God was telling him that there might be some people out there that he wants to use to do some stuff they've never done before, but like nobody was asking. So I just started praying. I was like, "Hey God, what would you have me do?"
Yeah.
And I distinctly heard a voice kind of say, "Hey, why don't you write a book?" And I'm like, "About what?" And so, just to give you a little bit of background about me, I'm a huge movie buff. I was at the
Yeah.
time, and so I love science fiction and fantasy. Those are like my
Yeah.
favorite genres. So I was like, well, okay, well, I got a couple of ideas for maybe like a science fiction book, but I absolutely knew nothing about writing. This is back in 2010, and so I started sketching out this whole little story right there in church on the back of a pamphlet. And the main thing I was trying to do was to write a story that was unique to something that I really liked. And all those, sometimes I would look at movies and the movie would go a certain direction, and I would go, man, it was good, but what if they had kind of done this,
Hmm.
maybe gone that way with another story? And so I took all those ideas that I had and I just put them into my first novel. That's what I wanted to do.
Nice.
With a background in physical therapy, I wanted to make original like weapons and technology. So I used a
Hmm.
lot of the stuff that we use in modern medicine with like
Okay.
ultrasound, yeah, ultrasound and electromagnetic waves and things like that. I was like, yeah, I'll make my own technology. So
Yeah.
I stayed away from like lightsabers and lasers
Hmm.
and just kind of went my own way and created stuff. So I just wanted to create this whole world. So that's where the Starcross saga was birthed. And Protostar, which was the first novel I wrote, I got it picked up by an agent in Atlanta and a publishing company, Firefly Publishing. And from there, we ended up winning like Book of the Year for science fiction, young adult romance with Reader's Favorite, which is pretty highly known, most
Yeah.
writers.
Yeah.
And then that publishing company went under the next year. She was like, I'm
Mm.
just getting out of the publishing game, gave me my rights back.
Yeah.
Got another agent, shopped it around for the sequel, got it picked up, and then kind of went from there. Had some creative differences with the
Yeah.
publisher at the time, and they gave me the rights back to Supernova, which was the sequel. And finally, I just started saying, I said, hey, you know what? I kind of got a feel for this publishing thing. I'm just going to open my own company. So that's how
Hmm.
Cosmedia Productions was birthed. And then I just started going on a rampage of like reaching out to authors who I thought had good stuff, who maybe like self-published as well.
Hmm.
And I found them on Amazon. Oh, that story looks good. Let me reach out to them. They have an email, you know,
Interesting.
and and that's how it happened. And it's just like this organic growth of like just reaching out to people saying, hey, I see you got like a cover. I'd like to come up with a different idea, maybe get you in with an editor, get stuff cleaned up. And people
Hmm.
trusted me with their stuff. And we just kind of went from there. I had started off with just one editor at the time. Now we're up to like four.
Wow.
And we published over, since 2011, we published over, well, really 2014, we published over 30 authors with 60 different titles in ebooks, audiobooks, paperback formats.
Yeah.
2020, we started our own comic imprint called Star Child Comics.
Hmm.
We ran a Kickstarter to get our first 4 superhero comics published, got those done, got it funded. And then from there on, like I said, we've just kind of just kept things moving. Star Child Comics has really grown. We're up to 12 issues of comic books now.
Okay.
Um, First and second issues of my story, The Cape. We've got first and second issues of Steel Rain, which is another story right now. I'm co-writing sequels to ANVK, which is African Ninja Vampire Killers. A
Okay.
whole crazy
That's
storyline
crazy.
with
Yeah,
that.
that sounds
It
crazy.
is. Yeah, and I'm co-writing that with Kaio Champion, who's the godfather creator of that series. But we do a lot of cross pollination with our stories because it's fantasy and it's sci-fi. So if you
Hmm.
got room to move somebody into a story for a little bit, we do that, and that's why we have two mantras that we live by with Cosby Media Productions. We do entertain the mind and inspire the soul, and with
Hmm.
Star Child Comics, we say come play in our worlds because we got worlds that just kind of are all connected. Even though we're a hybrid publisher, we publish our novels through Cosby Media Productions. We also have that alley or that gateway with the comic books in Star
Hmm.
Child Comics. And with hybrid publishing, we may start our stories like, for instance, Steel Rain may start in the comic book pre-flight and then go into the novel Flight of the Starship Concorde,
Right.
and then go back again with issue number 2 of the comic, which is now kind of the book 3 of the series, which will be coming out early next year. So we move our readers back and forth through comics and novels. We
Hmm.
got Broken, which is behind me. Uh, book 1 was the novel. Book 2 is the comic book. Book 3 is the graphic novel, and so forth. So people really like that. They're excited, like, oh man, different ways of reading, different ways
Yeah.
of us reaching readers and telling our stories. And so, we've just had a lot of fun, and we're just continuing to grow and push and bring on new authors, and but still stay very dedicated and loyal to our current slew of authors and creatives to make sure that they get their books out, make sure they have what we call the industry standard, so that when people pick them up, they don't look like independent novels and comics because
Yeah.
we've seen those, right?
Right.
What we want to do, we call ourselves a small press company because small press publishing, we really pride ourselves in giving out products that look like the big five and what the bigger publishers do,
Right.
but at a level that's smaller so authors get the support that they need. We do their trailers, we do their book cover releases, we do their
Hmm.
book covers, and once we take authors on, we really, really partner with them so they don't feel like they have to shell out a whole bunch of money just to get their books released. If we believe in them and their vision for their stories, then we want to make sure that they're successful.
God, that's a lot to digest, but it's also very, very interesting. I too am a fan of sci-fi. I love sci-fi. I love fantasy, horror, all those things. And
Okay.
like you, I write a lot of that into my stories as well. It's just
Mhm.
genre mashup, right? If you can write
Absolutely.
sci-fi fantasy, why not do it? Create your own
Why not?
universe. Why not?
Absolutely.
So that's very interesting. And I know before we started this, you mentioned, and even here you mentioned that you're kind of have formal education. How has that, even though, I mean, is it in the field of writing or is that formal education something completely different?
I got all my stuff in health science, and I
Okay.
moved into my master's in physical therapy and my doctorate. But I think that for me, for the most part, learning how to explain yourself and express yourself really goes hand in hand with writing.
Yeah.
I'm a very detailed writer. I like to give like what I see in my head. I want to convey in the
Hmm.
pages. So when people get that, they're actually in that air. They're in that world. They're in the mind of that character. If it's first person perspective, if it's third person, they need to see everything. They need to intuitively feel what those characters are going through and thinking. So I feel like it really kind of plays hand in hand. You've got to be able to explain yourself to be a detailed writer or somebody who's
Hmm.
able to convey all of what you want in your head because the readers have to be able to understand it. You have to be able to express yourself. And the same thing with physical therapy. I've been physical therapist since 2001, so about 10 years before I got into writing. And I've given seminars across the country, over 20
Okay.
seminars. So I get up and do like 8-hour presentations. Got to be able to explain yourself. Got to be able to
Yeah.
prove what you're saying, and to be able to answer questions,
Right.
so people get all the information they need to feel as if they were educated in the content. So same thing with the novels. When you pick up the story, you read the synopsis on the back. When you dive into that story, it's my responsibility to be able to make sure that the reader understands everything that's going on in that world with those characters,
Hmm.
and that there's a nice ebb and flow to the story that takes them from the beginning to the end. And that's why I pride myself on using three act structure, whether it's my screenplays that I write, my novels, or even my comics, which is a
Hmm.
little crazy. A lot of people don't like to do that, but I like to be able to stay on task and on schedule, writing schedule, so I don't go crazy just creating some story that I even get lost in the weeds. Because if I'm lost, then I know the readers are lost as well.
Yeah, that's a great point because I do the three-tier structure as well. I try to. I I
Hmm.
don't know if I always succeed, but it's always like kind of back of mind or front of mind, like, okay, these so many pages are gonna tell this arc, so many more pages are
Right.
gonna do this, so many more. And I know you're right, that is definitely not the norm. But for me,
Mhm.
again, like exactly what you said, it keeps me focused on this story. And there's
Yeah.
even times where, and I don't know, you can maybe chime in, like, do you have to kind of take a step back to make sure you're not too close? Because I know as a writer, we can get too close to the story and it's all in
Mhm.
our head. It all makes sense and everything flows and no holes. But then, like, I have my wife proofread stuff and she's like, there's this one thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I go back and
That's
kind of
the best
adjust.
person. Yeah, that's the best person to have it read because I tell my friends all the time, like my wife becomes my second voice in most things,
Yeah. Yep.
and so I like it because I'm like, hey, be hard on me, read it, let me know what's
Yeah.
going on. And now with the birth of AI is even another help as well. Sometimes I'll just write my outline and run it by an AI application and say, hey, do you see the normal flow of all the points and the beats that I have to make sure that I'm on writing schedule.
Hmm.
And that way it's like, well, you can make a change here or there. And I'm like, oh, you're right. So my whole thing is every time I write a story, I just finished book 21 what is it, 14 years I've been writing.
Hmm.
And so my goal is to always write my next favorite novel. And the more sophisticated I can become in my organization, whether it's with beta readers or even the use of AI, I think that I just have more of a congruent storyline that doesn't get lost. And I want to make sure I can get everybody through those three acts as sophisticated as I can, and as accurately as I want the story to be depicted.
Hmm.
So I'm really, really proud of the latest that I put together that I'll be launching in February. But we just been kind of working on Broken right now and finishing Broken up. But the next story, which is going to be a duology in feudal Japan, with the novel being book one and the 65-page graphic novel is book two, with a nice side story comic. I'm really, really proud of how all that came together because you can imagine releasing all of that at one time
Right.
can get very confusing and it can take up a lot of time. But I
Right.
think the systems that I had in place to get it all done, and I have the artwork being done by a female named Eliza who worked on our AMVK project. I'm just totally excited with how that's going to come together. Maybe
Nice.
I'll be back on to talk to you about
Yeah,
it one day.
anytime. I love talking to creative people, and one of the reasons I do is because we always have something next. We always are like thinking
Right?
of the next thing down the road, the next exciting thing, and same thing. I'm a little OCD about stuff. Yeah, I agree with you. My next book I want it to be my best. It may or may
Absolutely.
not be, but that's how
Yeah.
I approach it.
Hmm.
On that note, like, what kind of keeps you motivated? You've been writing for several years now. Like a lot of us, for me, we have kind of our main jobs and we do a lot of, like, whether it's indie publishing or small press publishing on the side. So we're kind of night weekend warriors. Are there specific people? You mentioned your wife. I mean, my wife definitely motivates me, because when she reads a book and maybe she chuckles at one of the things that I put in there purposely, like, oh, I succeeded, right? Even if it's only
Absolutely.
one person,
Absolutely.
but what are the maybe it's the things or the people that motivate you to keep doing this?
I fell in love with story a
Hmm.
while back. And I've seen the industry change a little bit, where everything was really like, at least even with the way that I looked at films and TV, if you gave me high, um, high profile, um, stories with big set pieces, action stuff. That's what drew me in. And then
Okay.
as I became a little more refined with finding out more about story, doing more research, then there was a shift where stories were more character driven, right? So you
Mm.
think about your stuff like Game of Thrones and things like that. Those characters are what really kept you. The background of being in that genre of maybe like medieval and fantasy was just really in the background. It was like stuff that just kind of helped feed your eye, but you really were locked in and connected to those characters. I always think about like The Walking Dead. Um, you know, how many more zombie films or TV shows can you see? But The Walking Dead was genius to me because again, I got connected to those characters early on,
Hmm.
and the zombies were in the backdrop. It was always just this ominous danger looming in the background. So you'd be caught up in the story, and all of a sudden the zombie pop out. I was like, oh, I forgot zombies
Yeah.
are here,
Right.
because you were so locked into those characters and the ways that those characters would be challenged and how the conflict was woven into the story. So I'm always just up for the challenge of saying, hey, I got a new story, new character, new world, and let me see how I can bend but not break them, and continue to just challenge them throughout the story and just move them through that story. So I'm just always intrigued and thrilled about the challenge of doing that. And it was something that was crazy with Broken. I wrote Broken for the novel, and I really didn't think I was going to do anything else with it. And so I was like, I kind of had written series by that time. Star-Crossed Saga was a trilogy that I finished that. I felt really proud about it. I had this nice sci-fi series in this world I had created with original technology and all that was great. Did a spin-off series with Steel Rain, who was the bounty hunter I introduced in Solstice, which is book 3. And then when I started working on Broken, I said I wanted to do a one-off. So I wrote it. But by the time I got to like Act 3, I was like, this kind of can't end. So I didn't know where I was going next with it, but I knew I had finished it and I was proud of it. And right about that time, we had already published our first 4 comics through through Star Child Comics. And so somebody approached me with this zombie series of comic books, and he sent it over to me. I read it. I was like, the writing was a little bit wonky, honestly,
Hmm.
because he was from another country. So I could tell
Yeah.
there was like a language barrier of how to express that stuff, but the images were perfect and the concept was there. So I said, hey, if we brought this on under Star Child Comics, would you give me a little bit of room to help you with the writing to kind of clean some things up so it's more
Hmm.
streamlined? He's like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Went over the details of the contract with him. Said, hey, I'm gonna send this over to you. He's like, yes. I mean, chopping at the bit. Every day we were communicating. Send it to him. A week went by, no response. I'm like, I hope he's not in trouble or got hurt some. Why isn't he responding? No return on the contract. So I get I finally reached back out and say, hey, just want to know if you have any questions about the contract. I know I sent this to you. We're ready to roll. Get you started. Blah blah. And he responded and was like, yeah, I realized that I'm gonna need like $10,000 from you up front for the
Mm,
contract. Yeah, and
yeah.
I want royalties on the back end for every comic book you sell. And I was like, well, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Ended that ended that communication, that relationship, and I was like heartbroken because I'm pissed now. Like we had comic books, I knew other concepts that I was going to start writing, and I was excited about getting this zombie series. So I'm like, and then I'm kind of chewing on it, thinking about it a couple of days, and all of a sudden I heard like God say, Braxton, you just wrote a post-apocalyptic zombie novel. Your next part of that series should be a comic. I'm like, you're exactly right. So I went ahead and started writing out the script for Broken, and for the outline for the comic.
Hmm.
And man, before you know it, I was like, I just crushed that project that this guy offered me with my own thing, and I'm totally proud of it. Started working with a fantastic artist named Ram Silva from Brazil, and another colorist and letterer who I had met named Luis Caballero from
Hmm.
Mexico. So I've got this whole kind of international thing going. I'm like,
Yeah.
we are good. So yeah, so I fell in love with Broken even more after that, and that was just something weird. Like you said, what keeps me going? It's those types of experiences that help me continue to
Hmm.
create the stories that I want to read. Because I do believe as a writer, you've got to fall in love with the story first because you got to get out there in front of people. You got to talk about it. You got to
Yeah.
be able
Yeah.
to speak on it, give them the details and answer their questions and get excited about it so that they're excited to pick it up. And I've never met a person who really gave me their ear that I told them about the concept of Broken and where that story is going, that they didn't get at least excited. Maybe they didn't buy it, but they were like,
Yeah.
man, that's a good story. That should be on TV. That should be on Netflix. They
Right.
would say those types of things. And that's what kept me going and keeps me motivated because I'm always I come up with another concept. I'm like, where can I go with this? And so the
Mhm.
challenge of just doing it over and over again and getting it going is what keeps me in the game.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few different TV shows, and it's interesting to hear you talk about how like the characters, or at least maybe the villains, or the terror, or whatever's going on, is more in the background. Where Walking Dead, like the zombies are more in the background. The wife and I just finished watching The Last of Us, kind of late to the show for season 1, but
Yeah.
phenomenal show. And then you forget, as you're talking about this, it's like that's exactly what happened with The Last of Us. Like we're
Mhm.
engaged in these characters, we forget
Yep.
that there's something lurking in that background, and
Mhm.
it's a really creative and unique perspective on how to write a character.
Right.
So that's really really interesting, and I definitely, as a writer myself, as an artist, you only do the writing, so I mean you're kind of managing different artists and making sure that
Mhm.
your vision is kind of there on paper in an illustration, which can be challenging.
Right.
Especially, I work with a
Yes.
few people from South America as well, and the language barrier can be a challenge. Not to say it's
Mhm.
it's in you
Right.
can't do it. It's just a little bit of a challenge sometimes. Um, what are some of your biggest influences, whether it be like film, like we've already mentioned, comics, or writers, anyone like that?
Yeah. For years, obviously, I followed. My first novel that I fell in love with was Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. You
Mhm.
know, the concept was like amazing to me. Because here I was in like what fifth or sixth grade, and they're trying to get me into reading, and I stumbled into this book about burning books. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of really what I feel like doing right now because you're forcing me to read, and I didn't like that. So I really didn't like reading in elementary school and middle school
Mhm.
because they were forcing me to read
Yeah.
books about characters for one I didn't identify with, and I was just really bored with them. So I was like,
Yeah.
reading just became this boring thing.
Right.
But like I said, I still liked stories, so I fell in love with just looking at movies and TV and talking about them with other people. Hey, did you see what happened last night? Did you see the movie this weekend? So I knew the interest was there, and then it wasn't until I started actually reading for joy out of college where I can actually finally give my brain a break. I started going, man, like this is like taking it to another level because now I can read these stories and I could just get a little glimpse on the cover. Hopefully, they gave me a little something to give me an eye into
Mhm.
that world, and I can run with it with the concepts in my head and just kind of go, go, go. And so, being able to do it on my own now is just honestly just it feels like a slice of heaven because now I can sit down. It's like, man, I got my own character, my own world. I can cross these guys over, and so we're just as a company, we feel really blessed to be able to do it and help other people with their
Mhm.
dreams and goals. And see, you're in the place that I wish I could be, but I just can't because I wouldn't insult anybody with my artistic talents. I'm probably like a 5 out of 10, and I'm too hard on myself to try to do that. So I need a 10 out of 10. And like I said, we've got like 5 artist teams that we work with. We actually not we just let me adjust. We actually brought on our sixth artist member to our stable. Um, and so we always just kind of say like, okay, well, this is your concept author. This is what you want your characters to be like. I know that because I've worked with them already as a
Mhm.
publisher. And I've got this other team member that go, man, look at their sketches. Look at what they've done before. I think these two will mesh well. They
Yeah.
give us the script. We turn them in. We kind of get it going. And it just, I've been blessed because for me as a writer, and I figure myself as an artist as well, um, I really want to work with people who I feel I can trust. So I give you the entire, script for the comic. I give a lot of details, a lot of information to kind of help guide you through those panels on those pages. And then I'm really trusting you kind of take it and do your thing with it. I don't need it
Mhm.
to look
Mhm.
identical to what I'm trying to convey. I just need you to do. That's why I brought you on because I know what your skill set can do, and I
Right.
want to see how you run with it. It's almost like looking at a good like a good movie, and it's why I think people go to movies now still because they feel this connection or this respect to the actors. So it's always for me when I sit in a movie theater, I'm like, I want to see what Denzel is going to do with this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to see what Will Smith can do with it. I want to see what Brad Pitt's going to do with this character. I want to see what um, you know Tom Cruise is going to do in this one. So I'm always looking to see how they're going to create. So I want to see what my artists are going to do with these pages. So I'm always super excited when they say, "Hey, I got another page for you." I'm opening up that file and I'm looking at it because I want to see what. And I tell you, majority of the time, I'm really really pleased. And like I would say, they go above and beyond what I was looking for out of those pages.
Yeah, I would say the one thing I've noticed being a writer and doing the art myself, like there's a few books that I've done everything for. I mean, mostly out of the financial constraints. I mean, that's always a
Absolutely,
challenge, is the financial
absolutely, yeah.
challenge, and I've done it both ways. I've hired an art team, and I would say working with an art team, it is always almost like Christmas. Every time you get a new page, you're like, how did they handle these panels?
Right, right, right.
And I've also noticed, or at least I would think that when you're writing a novel compared to writing comics, like they're two separate, right? Two separate
Mhm.
entities. You
Mhm.
can take a novel and kind of make it into a comic book and vice versa. But I feel like you can have more detail. You can have more explaining. You can go
Absolutely.
into way more kind of imaginary, like the imagination side of it. Whereas a comic book, it's like once you put pencil to paper, like this is what this panel is, you
Right.
have to convey what they're saying and positions, and I feel like it's more cinematic in a sense where
Mhm.
you're
Mhm.
framing every single shot for like the optimal shot. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Right.
it's really cool to see artist kind of interpretation. I would have handled things differently, but then you're in your mind, you're thinking of one thing and they do something else, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't think of that. So that's really
Right.
cool. You know?
Yeah. I worked with on my first comic book for the Cape series. I'd already written novels one and two. Cape was the original novel.
Hmm.
Um, Cape Overdrive was novel two, and so we did a mashup. We've created our own superhero universe with Cosmedia Productions. Me and six other authors have written over 18 novels. We're on, I guess, novel number 20 now of that whole series, and we started crossing our superheroes over into one another's novels in this book called the Infinity Seven series, which was like our Justice League, Avengers
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Nice.
And so me and Kaio Champion and Keyshawn Dodge crossed our characters over into the first novel, which is Gods Among Men. And then that was finished up with the second novel, which was War of Gods. But I will say that the beautiful challenge of writing with novels is that you can just go as much as you want. Go as much as you
Yeah.
want. You still go with three act structure, but you can, like you say, you can give all those details. You can go as big with that concept if you like, without any time restraints. Really, you can go
Hmm.
100,000 words. 100. We have one author who is one of our big writers who had passed away, but he's a sci-fi
Hmm.
writer. And man, when he turned his stories into me, I'm like, this is a 500-page book. So I got to figure out how to format this thing to fit all this stuff in here because he's like at 130, 150,000 words easy.
Yeah.
Um, but when I finally, after Infinity Seven Book One, I had finally got my first comic that was going to be like a cross, a segue between Infinity One and Two. I worked with an artist named Bruno Abdias. He's a artist out of Brazil as well, and
Mhm.
his skill set is just high, and I knew that when I worked with him. So I gave him a lot of leeway because I was just my first comic. I'm like, okay, I know some of the rules. I've written
Mhm.
my script, went with the formatting. I read a novel at the time called The Art of Comic Book Writing, which if everybody wants to start with comic book writing, you've got to pick
That's
up that because it
that's a
talks
good
about
place. Yeah.
with 3X structure gives you all the rules, all the tips. It's just beautifully illustrated. If you want to know how to write comics, you got to start there, even if you want to be an artist. So I started kind of playing with that, and I handed it over to Bruno, and Bruno would turn these pages over to me, and I would just be like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited!" Because my first comic book is not just going to be written well for story, but it is going to have. I mean, I knew Bruno was on the level of like DC and Marvel, and that's not
Mhm. Mhm.
exaggeration. And after I worked on my first novel, he had already done a lot of work anyway, so I didn't like help catapult his career by any means. But he does now work for Marvel and DC, and
Yeah.
he's done DC Cyborg series. He's done there's like this Christmas kind of holiday series with Superman and Superwoman, Supergirl, and he's also done for Marvel. I'm trying to think what he did for Marvel. I just saw this the other day too. He does their God, what's the name of it? It's the Latino version of Black Panther. It's like White
Oh,
Tiger.
okay.
He does their White Tiger series, and every time I see, it, I go, "Yep." And now I can even tell when it's a Bruno page. Like I'll see some flash on social media. I'm scrolling, like, oh, that looks like Bruno. Oh, there, that was him,
Yeah.
And so I was just so blessed because from him, what he does with panels and flow of pages, I was educated
Yeah.
on how I can actually do this. Like, how far can you really go with a comic book? How much can you stretch that artist to deliver those panels in such a way? Maybe the panel is open where the characters are bleeding out. Maybe
Right.
it's a hexagonal panel. That way I can get away from just squares and rectangles.
Mhm. Mhm.
Maybe it's a triangle. Maybe it's a circle. Maybe it's the flow. Maybe the whole thing is just a blend of images that are considered panels, but with no borders. So
Right.
those are the types of things that he did that stretched me as a writer, and now allows me to stretch some of my artists. So I just feel like we're putting out the best or at least I am putting out the best comic books that I can. That again, I feel meet the industry standard. When people come over to my counter or my tables at the conventions and they start flipping through pages, they go, "Oh man, this stuff looks good,"
Yeah.
and that pleased me because that was the intention all along.
Yeah, there's definitely a for me as a creative, and I've talked to a few other creatives. It's the same thing. Whenever I'm at a show, it's we want to put out the best we can, and unfortunately, we only know what we know. I
Right,
mean, if we don't know the professional sizes and how to make things, the DPI, like there's a production side of things that you
right.
have to know
Oh
to put
yeah.
out good products.
Woo! Yes.
My background is like design and small business, so I mean, I get that, but not everybody has that, and so it's
Right.
really important to do that. And I think having that professional looking book, it goes a long way to
Absolutely.
attracting new customers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you talk about working with like higher level artists and people of skilled writers, artists, things like that. What are do you feel are some of the challenges that you had as far as just getting to where you're at?
I mean, really, it is what it is. When you're a small press publisher, people don't know who you are. Like you
Yeah.
even say, "Hey, I've never heard you before." I get it. I'm not insulted. I'm not on TV, and my stuff hasn't been turned to film yet. So, but I think just the challenge is because it's a trust thing, right? If
Hmm.
I come to a convention and I'm selling comic books, I have to understand that a lot of people who are coming to conventions are coming for the people who are the stars and the celebrities. They want
Hmm.
to get them to
Hmm.
sign something, and they're probably already sold on superhero stuff. Maybe I love Superman, Batman. So
Yep.
why would I read your stuff? And I get
Right.
that, and I respect that, and I understand that. So the best thing to do is to come out with a story that is very unique, and it may be superhero genre, but the way I'm telling that story is so unique that
Hmm.
people say, "Okay, I want to take a chance," and that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get an opportunity to get into their mind of what they like, and yet even though it's like what Hollywood says, give me the same but different. And
Yeah.
that's my concept when I'm doing my stories is same but different. And I always want to have a table when people come by. I go, what do you like to read? And they go, well, a little bit of everything. I said, well, we got a little bit of everything. Pick up a comic, look through the pages, pick up a novel, read the synopsis on the back, tell me what you like, and I can give you some more details and background on it that I
Yeah.
think is something that you really would dig.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do. Something similar that's different. I'm one of those people that can appreciate that a lot because there's so much out there that's already been done. How do
Hmm.
you create a villain that is similar to the Joker but not the Joker? Or how do you create,
Absolutely.
a hero that's like Batman but not? So it takes time, for creative people. We just kind of sit down and flesh out the things that we like, the things we don't like. How can we make it more unique, more creative, and then we can present it to fans and say, if you like this, you'll
Right.
probably like
Absolutely.
what I'm doing, right?
Hmm.
Because there's similarities there,
Right.
and just going through your website and looking at all the titles you've done, listening to everything, that you've been talking about, I can tell there's a lot of passion. I think with a lot of us indie creators, we love our characters, we love our stories, we're extremely passionate about it. Do you feel that having all these titles and whether it be novel format, comic format, a lot of indie creators are kind of one or the other. They either do novels or they do comics. Do you feel
Right.
that having like this multiple platform, multiple books really has hurt the growth potentially instead of just having like one consistent title, whether it be every month, every 3 months, whatever that be?
Right. I feel like it's probably a 50-50. I really
Okay.
don't know because when I first remember this didn't happen overnight, right? So I just first concept, it was Starcross,
Yeah.
book 1 year, come back book 2 1 year, book 3. And then now, and I was like, man, I had book 1. Imagine if I would have had 2 books. Now I got book 2. Imagine if I had 3 books. Now I got all three, and then that's money, right? Because people buy the whole set. They go, oh, this is the whole series. I don't have to come back and go look for it some other time. Okay, boom. So it's hard to figure out exactly what somebody's looking for when they come. So you
Hmm.
can't just make something based off the fact of what one person told you, and you
Yeah.
can't look at it on like 2 or 3 and what they wanted. Then you have all three sitting there. So I said, well, I just want to try the first. And I'm like, why don't you get the whole series? So it's this balance, right? But then after a while, I started rolling. I got sci-fi and superhero. I got that at the
Hmm.
table, and I've seen people who have just one thing that's all they do, and that's fine. I'm not knocking it, but that's all they had to sell. And you basically come to a convention and rent a table and have 2 comics.
Hmm.
But I could have series. You know, here's a bounty hunter series, that's $50. Here's a sci-fi series, that's $50. I have a whole comic series. I got a whole graphic novel, 175 pages that actually gives you these one shot, one page comic book summaries with like seven
Hmm.
to eight panels that actually define the entire novel from Menzuo. So if
Oh,
you didn't
nice.
read books one, two, three, and four, I give you that serialization of that novel. On one side, we do the summary of what happens in that book, and on the other side, we give you the pages. We give you one page with seven panels. So if you read that and you look at that, you've read the whole novel. Now you go to the next one. So we've done that with this big compendium, so that if people say, "Man, I don't know where to start with your whole superhero series," you got Daniel Payton's Bark, you got Lawrence St. John's Metatron, you got Kaio Champion's Majesties of Canaan, you have my Cape series. Where do I start? I say, look, if you read the compendium, you get everything, and then that, boom, $60. So I
Yeah.
have all this stuff available that essentially just brings people back to us again after they've gotten through and reading. I have people come back for returns, like, oh man, I'm glad you're here this year. What did you bring? So
Right.
my goal is just to make sure that I have stuff available that kind of checks all the boxes, because you never know who's going to come by the table and what they want to read. And again, it just comes down to love. What do I love to write? What do I love to build on? I was the executive producer for the Nexus Ashram series, which is written by Chris. Um, Lord, he's gonna kill me. I forgot his last name. I want to say McCartney. That's not it. Anyway, I'll pull his comic book up now, and that'll help me out. um, it's Chris McCauley.
Hmm.
So, who doesn't love a nice big fighting robot anime series,
Right.
So he trusted us to do his comic with Nexus Astrum, which is a series that he started. And I love the concept, so I became like the executive producer. And because I love big
Nice.
fighting robots, then this
Yeah.
is in my wheelhouse. This is what I love to do. And I worked with a brand new artist and his team, Leo Rodriguez, and they just did a phenomenal job of bringing these guys together. And so,
Yeah.
as executive producer, it was my role to make sure that the story flowed and moved well, and that the pictures conveyed all the emotion that Chris wanted in the story, and that also we gave these summaries in the beginning to kind of bring people together, so other people understood where they were as he dropped you into the series. Because there's also a novel that goes along with this, and we're currently getting ready to get his script for issue 2 to be dropped next year. So I love story. I love certain stories, and I want people to be able to get that same love when they come to the table and pick up something from Cosby Media Productions and Star Child Comics.
And that's awesome. That's some really great work, artwork. The story
Oh,
sounds
thank you.
phenomenal. I love big robots too. I mean, I grew up on Voltron, so it's just,
Voltron,
you know,
Robotech,
yeah, all
Ultraman. I
that,
mean, all that
all
stuff
that.
is great. Yeah. So
Yeah.
for me to actually say, "Wow, I own these stories,"
Hmm.
it's childhood coming back around, and my
Right.
goal is just to always make sure that it reads right, it moves right, and that people are able to get a well-rounded experience when they read these comics and look at what we have.
And you mentioned doing shows. I know doing Comic Cons is really a big thing for independent people. I've had
Hmm.
people come up when just released literally the first issue, and they're like, "Is this going to be one and done? Are you going to keep doing?" I'm
Right,
like, "Yes, absolutely.
right,
I'm the one doing it, so I'm drawing it and writing it. So yeah, I'm going to
right,
keep
right,
doing
right.
it."
Very cool.
I know a lot of people, a lot of creators just have trouble continue like having that consistency, right, and being
Hmm.
able to, whether it's every 6 months, every year, come out with a new the next issue or the next novel, the next thing.
Right.
And doing conventions, there's marketing behind that. It's letting people and fans know, hey, we're going to be here at this table.
Yep.
This is what we're doing,
Yep.
while also trying to balance like not overextending ourselves. I know a lot of artists do like 30, 40, 50 shows a year because there's that
Yeah.
many. There's a ton of
Yeah.
conventions across the America here. And how do you kind of manage the whole promoting side of things? Is it, oddly enough, like I did not hear of your books and your stories, and is it like social media? Are we doing
Yeah.
outside website type of stuff? It's just for those indie creators out there, marketing is probably our biggest challenge. I feel like you
It really
said,
is.
people don't know us. We're not
Yeah.
having films made, we're not having TV shows. So, it's word of mouth, it's many different avenues. What do you find is successful for you?
I think it is what you're saying. With marketing, everybody says, somebody's got to see something 7 times before they decide
Hmm.
to buy it or whatever. And so I would say what has been successful for me is one of my authors said this to me, and I felt like killing him, but he made a very great point. He was like, I was like, man, this book that we published for you is like really successful. Like, what's doing it? Because I mean, I'm only doing one thing on my end. And he
Hmm.
goes, well, gravity. I'm like, I want to kill you. But he was right. Like some of it is just randomness, but you
Okay.
have to put the effort out there. I feel like if you do nothing, I can guarantee you nothing will happen.
Correct.
But if
Yeah.
you do something, I can't guarantee you that nothing will happen.
Yeah.
And it's just that simple. So you got to do something, even if it's a $3 ad you run on IG.
Yeah.
Put together a post, go boost it for $3.
Yeah.
See what happens. You know, you just never know how many times that thing has to play. And I've got reels that I play over and over again. I say, oh, time to do this one again for another $5. Goes out there, you get some looks, you get some likes, you get maybe some links that take them to your website. They may not buy anything the first time,
Yep.
but they see it again, they see it again, they see it again, boom. And then it's like, every now and then I'm looking at my website to see like what was purchased, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, what drove them to go get another copy of Broken? I didn't even advertise anything the last 30 days.
Yeah.
Well, it was probably one of those old things, so you have to do something.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you. If you do nothing, nothing will happen to you. How about that? You
A
like
hundred
that?
percent of the time.
Right? That's proven. So yeah, so I think you just have to be out in the game. You just have to push, and of course, I mean, we do very well at conventions. So the goal, I think, for every small press indie publisher is to be able to sell online. And I can't guarantee you what things work, but just keep pushing them to your website. Keep working on your website. Keep refining it. Let it be the gateway to your product, so people when they come there, it's easy to navigate. They can figure out exactly what they're looking for, and
Yeah.
it's presented to them. And you just got to see what comes of it.
Yeah, that's very true, and I've also found, like, oddly, Reddit is one of those places where there's a huge indie comic community, and they're just more responsive. They like to see that stuff. So
Yeah,
you're gonna find your niche kind of wherever it's social media, ads, different platforms that help to promote your work. With that said, let's jump into
okay.
your website here, and I mean, there's a lot. there's there's a lot to go through. Any one place do you want to start? I mean,
Yeah.
you
Let's have
have,
some fun.
yeah.
Let's have some fun. Click on Star Child Comics. I'll introduce everybody to Star Child Comics because this is Cosby Media Productions website.
Hmm.
And so if they scroll down, they'll get that nice little trailer there that you just click on. It actually shows like all the flashes of the comic books. So like our little Marvel logo kind of comes in design. But
Hmm.
here's where you start to get educated on everything that we have to offer.
Yeah.
So it'll be the CMPDSU, which is the Cosby Media Productions dedicated superhero universe, almost like the MCU, like the DCU. And these are
Okay.
our stars. We've got Bark there from the Bark series. We got Paladin and these are just these advertising kind of posters that we sell at
Hmm.
the conventions as well. We have and that's from the Cape series. We have Menzuo from the Menzuo saga. We have Metatron from the Metatron series, and we have a picture of Blessed here from Majesties of Canaan. So it's like introducing you. And then we start talking about the stories that speak. So now these are the
Hmm.
comics. So you get to get an idea. If you clicked on and learn more, you'll be able to see pages from the comic books as well.
Hmm.
Quick little snippet, little um, teaser line about the story right underneath it. So we just introduce you here and start to show you some of the things that you might be interested in the genre of what we're publishing. And there's ANVK.
Yeah, this is a lot, actually. I think for any fans out there of quality indie books, I've one of my friends recently said, what's take a poll, what's better, convince me, independent or mainstream? And obviously, I went to independent. I think the stories are
Hmm.
better. I think there's more
Hmm.
passion involved.
Yeah.
The art could be subjective. Obviously,
Right.
it could be really,
Right.
really good, or kind of still needs work. But at the end of the day, I think you're gonna get more times than not a really fun story that's different
Hmm.
and unique.
Right.
And characters
Absolutely.
we can relate to in all walks of life. So I think it's really important, get out there, support indie comics. And all your books actually are available. Is it like via Amazon, or is it you mail, individual copies, or the novels, things like that?
Well, all the novels and comics you can get on ebooks. So we
Hmm.
have all those on Amazon. Some of them are on Barnes and Noble comic books. But if you want, I mean ebooks. But if you want the floppies, you
Hmm.
can get those off of our website, or you can go to
Okay.
our online store. So that's another place. If you go up and you click on
Storefront.
uh, storefront, there you go, and yeah, just click on that.
Yeah, and that'll take you to all the comics.
Yeah, the comics and some of the novels there. You
Hmm.
see that go along with it. There's Blood Moon 2.
Okay. Yeah.
So we just, we give you opportunities. What you'll see here is basically everything that has a series, like a hybrid, like I said, that's connected with the things that I do. I have those novels and comics on hand so I can sell them. And
Right.
then, if people want to go and, go to the websites like Amazon and Barnes Noble, they can pick them up on their own. Some people say, hey, I don't really trust websites. I get it. So you can go still pick it up if you want. You don't have
Yeah.
to buy them through us. But if you buy them through us, I sign everything we send. So you want to
Same.
get a
Yeah.
signature, then that works too. Um, but go up for a second. I want to just show somebody, show some people some things. Go back
Sure.
down a little bit, like look at the products themselves.
Hmm.
Let's pick the cape. See what cape one looks like, so I can show you what Bruno's done. If you scroll down some,
Oh, cape. Okay, gotcha.
keep going down, down, down.
Oh, there we
Right
go.
there,
Gotcha.
middle. So that's Bruno's.
Okay. And did he was this issue one then? Yeah.
Yep. And then I mean, look at that.
Yeah, that's great. I could see it's definitely, Marvel-esque
Yeah,
DC looking, he's got that style.
he does. And then this is one of his pages. Like I said, the work that he does on the panels with the
Mhm.
angles and how
Mhm.
sit in the background and like a panel's just dropped on top of it. That was all
Yeah.
Bruno, and that like I said, that taught me how comic books can be done. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, even this one here, you have the guy's head kinda coming out of the panel.
Yep. Yep.
And that's where design can play a
Hmm.
factor. It doesn't always have to be. You could still stick with Jack Kirby's style of laying out pages and
Right.
everything's in its
Right.
panel.
Right.
But
Right.
like this, I think it really creates an environment, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Like, you have this
Hmm.
cityscape, you have this guy standing there, and then it kind of gives you these inset panels, and I like doing that. I draw these types of things.
Right.
But yeah, this is yeah, really great artwork.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I encourage everyone, go check something out. I mean, you got enough
Yeah.
there.
Right, right. The question always for me is like, what do you like to read? Like I said, what do you like to read? We got
Yeah.
everything. If you go back to the home page, go up a little bit. You could just go up now. Click the little CMP logo in the middle of the screen. If you go up a little bit on the banner, go up.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep, right there. There you go. If you click on that, that just takes you back to the home screen. And this is where I
Hmm.
said I tried to make the website as easy as possible to navigate. You've got
Yeah.
our top comics on the left. If you want to look at those, you
Hmm.
can scroll those left and right. You can go down, see
Hmm.
what the new releases are, what the editor's choices are. They're all going to click
Nice.
across. And then if you just keep going down, um, we're going to just set you up with simple clicks here. Now, fiction. If you
Yeah.
want new adult, if you want fantasy, if you click on any one of these banners, they're going to take you to a collection of books in that genre that we offer
Hmm.
from all of our authors.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, and that's important. Like, I a lot of people say, like, you got to kind of make it almost stupid simple,
I
so
know. Yeah,
and that's okay. As a designer, I mean, as someone also did UI design, I get it. Like, you have to make the user experience palatable,
absolutely.
and if
Yep.
you don't, you will lose customers.
Hmm.
It's just
Yep.
like you said, if you do nothing, nothing's going to happen. If you have a bad
Mhm.
user experience, you will lose
Yeah,
customers.
you will.
This is
Absolutely.
really cool. Like, because you have so many genres, this is really nice to see how you just break it down for even like new
Make it simple.
customers.
Yep.
What do you like? Click on something, you can read more about it, and have
Hmm.
that option to purchase.
Yep. And
And
then
that's
the
really
external
cool.
links right there. Go to Amazon. Everybody trusts Amazon. You don't believe me. You don't want to
Yeah.
buy this stuff. Go to Amazon. you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really awesome. And then these are all your partners. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I like this, like, you might have missed this, you know, if someone bought
yeah,
an issue and they're kinda like, "Oh, I didn't catch you at this convention," I can go back and buy other
yeah.
issues, and I do the same thing when on my website, I anyone that buys off my website, it all gets a fresh signature, you know,
Hmm.
and I'm one of those guys, I don't charge for signatures, I think that's
Oh,
kind of
absolutely not. Yeah,
I
for sure, for
don't think I
sure.
have a name enough, no one's flipping my books on eBay, so
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really easy to navigate website. A lot
Thank you.
of books on the website, a lot of variety, and I think variety is the spice of life. I think having stories that whether it be kids can relate to, teenagers, adults, we all have different life experiences, and it feels like
Mhm.
you're writing to all these different experiences or these
Yeah,
different kind of,
absolutely.
in a way, lifestyles. You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
like sci-fi, boom, I got this. You like fantasy, I got this. So it's really, really cool. I definitely I can't promote this enough. Like I said, I never heard of this, but I'm fascinated and I need to go
thank
check out
you.
some books. So
Thank
like,
you, absolutely, yeah.
you
It was
know,
funny, I just came back from out of town, I was in Africa, last week, and I found a comic book store there,
oh,
and it had, like I'm a Fantastic Four fan, X-Men
hmm,
fan, Transformers fan, and Star Wars fan, and they had some comic books in there. I was like, man, a comic shop in Africa. I've got to go in. I've got to
right.
get some stuff. And so I found the latest stuff from Kirkman because he's writing the
Hmm,
Transformers now. So I wanted to
hmm,
see what he did with the story. So I picked up one of those comics. I picked up the Kylo Ren series that they started
hmm,
now, where he's basically like living in the shadow of his grandfather, Darth Vader. After the movies, and so
hmm,
a couple of Fantastic Four. So for me, it's intel. It's me reading and watching and seeing how stories unfold. Again, looking at artwork and things like
hmm,
that. But yeah, but I had like 8 different comics from different genres, and I'm just reading them on the plane. Okay, let me read Transformers. Let me go ahead and
yeah,
read Star Wars. Now let me jump back into Fantastic Four. Oh, I got Batman here too. Let me read. So I think people do that. They don't want to just
yeah,
read through one thing. So we just want to we want to offer people opportunities to just kind of flex their muscles and read different genres and get into
hmm,
something new. And
hmm,
I'm proud of what we got going on. And like I said earlier, thank you for having me on. Give me a chance to talk about it. And
yeah,
I'd love to come back and really, really talk about this latest project launching in February. It's
yeah.
going to just be amazing. And I'm so proud of where we are with it. And I think the last 8 pages of the graphic novel being worked on now. So that'll be ready to launch in February.
That's awesome. Yeah, I glad to have you back on. Like I said, I like talking to people in kind of a selfish way. I'm a selfish writer artist. I like to write and draw what I like, but fans like it,
Absolutely.
so I'm cool with that. They
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
ostracized me yet, but
That's right.
I think a lot of us creative people do what we like, and it's just that the fans obviously like that as well. But
Yeah.
it also in a similar way, like talking to creative people also motivates me to stay creative, to think of
That's right.
things differently. Even
Yep.
just talking with you for the last little bit here, you brought up some interesting ideas and concepts and just the way you do things. And it's motivating, and it's also, we read other books to know what to do, but also what maybe not to do.
Right.
Like you said, like if there was a movie, why did it go this direction or that direction? Maybe I take it a
Hmm.
different direction. So
Yeah.
it's that constant, seeing what's out there, how can we adapt it and change it and make it more unique or more of our own. But yes, it's been a pleasure talking with you. We'll wrap this up here, and I encourage everybody to go out there. I'll have everything ready to go when this podcast is up for you, and until then, I will see you on the next episode.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Bye bye.